This one is the 22nd session of the industrial economics, which is related to the third unit of industrial economics. And in this session I am going to discuss about the agro processing sector in India. So first of all, introduction. Agro-processing could be seen as a set of techno-economic activities carried out for conservation and handling of agricultural products and to make it usable as food, feed, fiber, fuel, or industrial raw materials. Hence, the scope of the agro-processing industry encompasses all operations from the stage of harvest till the material reaches the end users in the desired form, packaging, quantity, quality, and price. Agro-processing graded as the sunrise sector of the Indian economy in view of its large potential for growth and likely socio-economic impact specifically on employment and income generation. Some estimates suggest that in developed countries up to 14% of the total workforce is engaged in agro-processing sector directly or indirectly. However, in India, only about 3% of the workforce finds employment in this sector, revealing its underemployed state and vast untapped potential for employment. So the next part is importance of agro-based industries in India. So the importance of agro-based industries in India can be explained with the following points. The first point is it helps in increasing industrial production. Second, it provides employment to landless agricultural labor and tribal population from rural and backward areas. Third one, it ensures the development and stability of rural economy through diversification and reduced dependence on agriculture. Fourth importance is it ensures the alleviation of poverty by providing steady sources of income and livelihood. Fifth one, it earns much required foreign exchange for the country. Sixth one, it improves the standard of living in rural areas. Seventh, it helps in reducing the extreme inequalities in the distribution of income and wealth. Next, they are easy to establish. Ninth one, it support balanced growth between agriculture and industry. And the last one is it help in avoiding wastage of perishable agricultural products. So this is about the importance of agro-based industries in India. So the next part of this session is the types of agro-based industries in India. So there are so many types of agro-based industries in India. The following are the major types, which can be explained as follows. The first type is agro-produce processing unit. These units are not involved in manufacturing and mainly deal with the preservation of perishable products and utilization of byproducts for other uses. Rice and dal processing mills are perfect example of these kinds of units. So the next type is agro products manufacturing units. These units engage in the manufacturing of new products where the finished goods are entirely different from the raw materials used. Sugar factories, solvent extraction units, and textile mills are some of the examples of these kinds of units. So the third type is agro inputs manufacturing units. These units are engaged in the manufacturing of products either for the mechanization of agriculture or for increasing agricultural productivity. Some examples of these units include agricultural implements, seed fertilizer, and pesticide manufacturing units. Next type is agro service centers. Agro service centers are workshops and service centers which are engaged in the repairing and servicing of pump sets, diesel engines, tractors, and other types of farm equipment. So these are the some types of agro-based industries. The next part is agro-based industries in India, an overview. So the first part is textile industry. The textile industry is concerned with the design, production, distribution, or marketing of yarn, fabrics, or ready-made clothing. It consists of units manufacturing cloth, manufacturing cotton textile, woolen textile, silk textile, synthetic fibers, and jute textiles. The industry plays an important role in India's economy because it is the biggest employer in the country after agriculture. Next one, sugar industry. The sugar industry is responsible for the supply of sugar, which is considered as an integral part of the human diet. India fell back to second place in sugar production during 2019 and 20, narrow losing the top spot to Brazil. India produced 28.9 million metric tons of sugar, which is roughly 17% of the world's total sugar production of 166.18 million metric tons. Today, the sugar industry's annual output is worth approximately INR 80,000 crores. Sugar production is expected to rise by 17% in 2020 and 21. Next one, vegetable oil industry. The Indian vegetable oil industry accounts for about 5% of the world's vegetable oil production. India is the largest consumer of edible oils in the world. The estimated domestic demand for vegetable oil is over 23 million tons, which is predominantly met by imports. Also, India is currently the biggest importer of edible oils in the world, with an import of 15 million tons annually, which is about 14% of the world's total vegetable oil imports. Fourth one, tea industry. Tea is the second most consumed liquid in the world after water. Between 2014 to 18, the global tea production increased at a CAGR of 2.97%. As the 2019, India was the second largest tea producer in the world with a total production of 1339.70 million kgs. Also, India is one of the world's largest consumers of tea, with about three-fourths of the total production consumed locally. The tea industry holds a special place in the Indian economy because it employs a total workforce of over 2 million people. Next one, coffee industry. India has always been a tea loving country. However, over the last two decades, we have witnessed an unprecedented rise in the number of coffee lovers because of a number of reasons, such as increase in disposable incomes, that is, coffee is considered more expensive than tea. Second one, global exposure. Third one, digital media penetrations, and fourth, lifestyle changes, among others. The increase in coffee consumption ignited a cafe culture in India and saw major brands like Cafe Coffee Day, Costa Coffee, and Starbucks setting up numerous outlets across the country. Next one, leather goods industry. Leather is one of the most widely traded commodities globally. The demand for leather is divided by the fashion, furniture, interior design, and automotive industries. The Indian leather industry accounts for about 12.93% of the world's leather production of hide skins. Also, the total exports of leather and leather products from India stood at USD 5.07 billion in 2019 and 20. The major markets for Indian exports includes USA, that accounts for 17.22%, Germany accounts for 11.98%, UK 10.43%, Italy 6.33%, and France 5.94%. So next part is about the problems faced by agro-based industries in India. There are some problems which faced by agro-based industries in India, which can be explained as follows. The first problem is small land holdings. Small land holdings make it difficult for farmers to achieve economies of scale, because of which farmers are forced to rely on subsistence farming. Next problem is seasonal nature. This means that the farmers have a very small window to reap the benefits of their hands' labor. In recent times, climate change has affected weather patterns, because of which there has been an adverse effect on agricultural production. And third problem, perishable nature of products. Agricultural products are perishable in nature, because of which they require huge infrastructure in the form of cold storage, excellent road connectivity. India offers on both accounts forward and backward linkage. Fourth problem is vari- variability. Agro-based industries involve variability in the quantity and quality of raw materials. Quantity of raw materials suffers because of fluctuations in weather and soil conditions. The quality suffers because of lack of standardization. These factors exerts additional pressure on agro-based industries in terms of operations related to production, scheduling, and quality control. Fifth limitation is limited knowledge. The absence of information, lack of awareness, and limited knowledge about opportunities, technology, and production system is also a major hurdle. Next problem is competition. India is increasingly facing competition from other countries in region such as Bangladesh, which offer similar advantages in terms of low labor cost and soil fertility. Next problem is technological backwardness. Almost all the agro processing industries, particularly the small and medium ones, are in the hands of the private sector, which do not have access to latest technology because of the unaffordable cost of technology. In the information technology age, many Indian agro processing industries do not have a database, which becomes one of the major constraints in setting up new industries. Next one, psychological barriers. Indian farmers are yet not mentally prepared to accept the challenges before agriculture as well as agro-processing sector. Agro-processing industries face difficulties due to inappropriate decisions about cultivation, imbalanced utilization of resources, and limited yield from the land. So these are some problems faced by the agro processing units in India. So we can summarize this session by saying the good news is that the government of India has taken serious note of these constraints. It has introduced several policy measures in order to ensure the growth and development of agro based industries in India.